The Jacksonville Jaguars back to their bottom feeder ways. Instead, this time it's a little bit different. A blown 19-point lead in the fourth quarter. Don't look now, but this promising season looks like it could be slipping away if they let this get to them. Maybe even worse than what happened in 2023. At least it's 1 week at a time in the NFL. Everything can change with a win against the Chargers at home. But is that going to happen? Let's break it down. Welcome back to Jags Japan, where we talk all things Jacksonville Jaguars, Japan, all things in between, and I'm just a guy. This is the Week 11 preview show, and we got a doozy this week. We're going to go through it all. The meltdown against the hated rival Houston Texans. Take a look around the AFC South. I have a few rants I'm going to go on, of course. And then we're going to break down this game against the Chargers, which really could bring the Jags to the brink of the season this year. But does it really matter after what happened on Sunday? I guess we'll find out. Obviously, I'm not in my normal studio. I'm out on a trip, and I'm in a hotel room right now, so that's why everything looks a little different. But let's go ahead and go a little deeper dive into that absolute meltdown against the Texans on Sunday. Jaguars lose to the Texans 36-29. We're up to 29-10 with 12 minutes left in the fourth quarter, and our paper-thin defense let up 3 straight Davis Mills lights-out touchdown drives, while the offense could only muster up 2 yards in each of its three drives that it had in the fourth quarter. So where do we go from here? How do we fix it? Whose fault is it? Is the season over? Who are the 2025 Jacksonville Jaguars? And I think that the fact that it's week 11 and we're still asking that question, we're still asking who the Jaguars are. We don't know the identity of this team. And I think that's a big testament and a big reason why that I think I've come to terms that the Jacksonville Jaguars are not a good football team. I said it after the Rams loss that, obviously you're going to get blown out a few times in the season, usually. It always happens. But to just not look competitive at all against the Rams, I was like, oof, I don't know if they're a good team, because good teams would at least have a little bit of juice, have a little bit of energy, but that definitely didn't happen. Good teams have an identity. Good teams know who they are and stick to their game plans. Good teams have bona fide good players that make plays when it counts. And good teams don't let hated division rivals that beat your ass every year for the past, 10 years, score 26 points in the fourth quarter and lose a game while you were up 19 on the road. You know who's a good team? I hate to say it, the Houston Texans. They have an identity. They know who they are and they play within themselves every single game. They have bona fide good players that make plays every single game when it counts. Danielle Hunter, Derek Stingley, Nico Collins, Dalton Schultz. And they took every opportunity that the Jags gave them late in that game to get back in the game and end up winning. And take it from the Jaguars. You remember what Liam Cohen said to the team in the post-game locker room after that Week 3 win against the Texans earlier this year? He said that he's so proud that y'all took it from them. The Jags took it from the Texans. It was right there, and he took that. Well, guess what? The Texans just took it from the Jaguars. Instead of the Jaguars burying them for good, ending their season, they got no hope at 3-6 with the way the AFC is playing right now. Instead of us burying them for good, they may have just sent a shock through the spinal cord of the Jaguars so deep that the season could take a downturn. They could end up falling apart after a loss like that. I think the Texans really showed the world who the Jaguars really are. I think a smoke and mirrors average football team that really should probably be 3-6 if it weren't for some very timely and sometimes very lucky turnovers. How's that feel? How's that feel, Liam Cohen? How's that feel, Trevor Lawrence, Josh Hines-Allen, Trayvon Walker, Walker Little, Foye Oluokun, Arik Armstead, De'Ami Brown? And do you know why I just listed those specific 7 players? Right now, those are the highest paid players on the Jacksonville Jaguars right now. Or at least who are supposed to be your kind of blue chip players that you brought in to change the culture, to change this team around. And at least the ones that actually played on Sunday. And not one of them did a thing on Sunday to win the game. Trevor Lawrence, got to play better. We can blame the coaching. We can say, oh, you should have ran the ball more. The offense needs to protect better. Maybe needs to play better to get more yardage in the run game in the fourth quarter, to at least get a first down. But when we put the ball in your hands to try to win the game and put the Texans away, I know it's the number one defense in the NFL, but you couldn't have willed your team to at least a few first downs. Have to play better to be the franchise quarterback that we need you to be. Not that we're paying you to be, not that we thought you were coming out. You know, I'm done with the whole generational thing, paid $55 million. I don't care. Can you just be a decent franchise quarterback that is consistent and leads the team to wins? So far this year, it's up and down, up and down. We'll have 3 game-winning comeback drives to, put the Jaguars in good position, and then he'll throw some dumb interceptions, not show up when we need him to. And that's 3 out of 4 games in your career that you've been outplayed by Davis freaking Mills. That should eat you up at night if you're the guy that we think you are. Yeah, Trevor probably wishes he could play against the Jags defense too. I'm not really even talking about, Davis Mills, numbers or anything, but Davis Mills willed his team to win. Yes, the other players on the Texans made great plays like Danielle Hunter and Derek Stingley, but at the end of the day, it was Davis Mills running for a 15-yard rushing touchdown to win the game for the Texans. While Trevor can't even get a damn first down. And yeah, our defense, gosh, they stink. I mean, I love Josh Allen. I'm happy for him. His son, who battled leukemia and is better now, he rung the bell. Awesome. Happy for him and his family. So amazing. That's a great story. But when we just look at the play on the field, it's not good enough. Forget him being a premier pass rusher. He only needs 1 more sack for the franchise record, and he legitimately might not get it this year. He's on pace for 3 sacks this year. $30 million a year almost. I think it was 28, 30, something like that. That's almost $10 million a sack against backup tackles too. I know Trayvon's hurt, and they're probably sliding all the protection his way, chipping him, using tight ends, maybe 2 tight ends. But you know what? Still, premier pass rushers in this league find a way to at least get 1 or 1.5 against some backups, against a terrible O-line in the Texans. That's all we've heard all years, how bad the Texans O-line was. They traded Tunsil away. That was their only good offensive lineman. And I couldn't tell who was the backup terrible offensive line on Sunday, the Jags or the Texans. And that brings me right to Walker Little. Just going to get dominated on live TV like that every single play. And this is why the whole Trevor conversation is crazy, because there's so many factors into it. And you're either on one side, you're either a full-on, Trevor Glazer defender, or you hate him and he's hot garbage. You want him out of there. You want Nick Mullins to come in next week. And the conversation can be in the middle. You guys realize that, right? The conversation can be Trevor does deserve a little bit of defense, but at the same time isn't playing good enough. Trevor's not playing good enough at all, and I'm not going to say that he's playing good quarterback a lot this season, but he dropped back 23 times, was sacked 5 times, and pressured on over half of the dropbacks. Again, that's the number 1 defense in the NFL. We have to remember that. Probably the best pass rush in the NFL as well. But the offensive line gets paid to just give your quarterback a chance. Yeah, Trevor's not the best QB in the league, but it shouldn't be too much to help him out a little bit. And not just Walker Little, but I think the whole line had problems on Sunday. Anton Harrison too. I think he's had a pretty decent year so far, and the offensive line in general has been better than I thought coming into the year, but Sunday kind of showed what I thought the line was going to be, unfortunately, and it came out at just a terrible time. I mean, Texas' offensive line, who was supposed to be terrible, playing backups, injured, had no problems at all with Davis Mills standing back there like a statue. I mean, gosh, he had time back there to make a sandwich and then rip our secondary apart like he's primetime Peyton Manning. Trayvon Walker, Eric Armstead. Trayvon's not earning a new contract, at least not the way he's playing this year. I get he's hurt. I think this is his 4th year. I think the Jags ride the 5th-year option with him and maybe give him a chance. I do believe in Trevor Walker. I think he'll be a good player for the Jaguars for a long time. I don't think he's not going to be worth prime pass rusher money. I don't think the Jaguars should roll out the Brinks truck and pay him $40, $50 million a year. He's had a couple good seasons, 10.5 sacks, but we're going to need another season for him to earn that. Eric Armstead, not worth the money at all. He had a sack in the game. He shows up in flashes. He just shows up for maybe 2 or 3 plays a game, and then he's just silent the rest of the time. Wasn't getting any push on the inside for most of the game, though. But, I mean, really no one on this defense is kind of earning a second contract. Maybe Devin Lloyd. But I don't think he played that well either in this game. I think the only defensive player that showed up and I think played a decent game was Jarion Jones. His number was called after Jordan Lewis got hurt, and I think he filled in pretty nicely. Obviously, he had a really good interception on the opening drive. Had a few good plays. I remember that fourth down stop was really good on Nico Collins, and then that penalty on him at the end was total BS. Jags really got screwed on a lot of penalties in that game for sure. That was totally bogus, but whatever. It happens. It's the NFL. Who's left on my list of embarrassment? Foye Oluokun. I don't think he played well on Sunday. He's had a solid season. He's kind of been probably one of the most reliable pieces on the defense since he's been to Jacksonville. But congratulations, you're the leader of the league's second worst defense in the NFL. I'll say they're probably better than the Bengals defense, because that defense might be one of the worst ever. And then Dyami Brown. I thought Dyami Brown would be a slightly better, or at least maybe a more reliable version of Gabe Davis coming into this year, or maybe like a poor man's Marvin Jones that we had in 2022. Just like can make a few big plays, can be a little bit reliable as like wide receiver 2 or 3. And I know he's been injured, but I mean, can't even get a catch in the game. Paying him like $10 million this year, that's really nothing for a wide receiver these days in free agency, but even that's not worth it for what we got out of him. What's he got this year, stats-wise? Like 200 yards, maybe? He can run the little speed sweep on fourth down. That's really the only thing he's done. And look, the point is the difference between the Jags and good teams right now is that the Jags' supposed good players aren't playing well. And I feel like they don't play well most of the time, this year at least. It's almost like last year where there's just so much underachieving going on that it's crazy. It's like we've seen these players make really good plays, play really well. We saw Josh Hines-Allen get 17.5 sacks on a contract year. We saw Trevor Lawrence play like a top 5 quarterback in his second year in the NFL. They have, I think, on paper, a lot of really good players, but they just don't make plays. And if you're a good team and if you have good players, one of them steps up and makes a play on Sunday to close out that game. Trevor scrambles for a first down or a few first downs. Josh Hines-Allen closes it out with a sack fumble. Arik Armstead gets his hands up, bats down a few balls. None of that was going on. They didn't have a shot. Defense was gassed the whole fourth quarter. Couldn't catch Davis Mills on the last play. I mean, the guy's it's not like he's Lamar Jackson back there. He's not even Caleb Williams. He's not even, I don't know. I'd put Davis Mills in like Joe Flacco category for like running the ball, and he outran the entire front 7 for a touchdown. But anyways, Houston is a good team right now. I didn't think that going in. I didn't think the Houston Texans were a good team going in. They definitely underachieved this season as well, but they have a great defense. They have a lot of really good players that make plays, way better than the Jaguars right now. And I think they're consistent, especially on defense, obviously. Now their offense is getting a little better, even with CJ Stroud out. Maybe he comes back. Maybe they start rolling. The Texans could get to 9-8. Texans could get to 9-8 and knock the Jaguars off the wild card. And it's not just that the Jags lost. If you saw my preview show of the Texans game, I picked the Texans to win 17-13. I thought they would lose this game because I just thought it was a tough game on the road, tough defense, and the Jaguars, I feel like, always kind of don't play well against Houston, especially in Houston. So I thought they had a good chance of losing just a close game, no matter who was at quarterback. Stroud, Mills, freaking Tom Savage, if he were to come back. I think any quarterback could have came in and beat the Jaguars on Sunday. The problem is just how they lost. That's tough, man. I don't really know how you come back from that as a team. And I think it's going to be a huge challenge for Liam Cohen. We're going to find out how good he is as a coach. Do I expect him to rally the troops and then go on a run and make a playoff push? I do not. If he does, good for him. That's awesome. I hope. Please do it. But I'm not going to expect that from a first-year head coach. He's probably trying to find still himself in his role as a head coach. I mean, for me, the only hope is Jaguars survive the next 4 games, which is a kind of a tough stretch starting from this game right here. Travis Hunter, Brian Thomas Jr. come back in the fold and maybe finally click on offense, along with Brenton Strange, who may or may not come back this week. Get the offense back in full strength, and hopefully by week 14, they got the playbook down and they're ready to go. But that's not something we can really count on. We haven't seen the offense really play in a game all year. And in fact, they've honestly kind of looked like ass all season. But anyways, that loss hurts. I think a loss like that can really collapse your season. And definitely concerned for the Jaguars going forward. You look at the last 5 weeks of the Jaguars in the NFL, and it's 2 bad losses to, Super Bowl caliber teams, not expected to, win or anything, but at least look competitive. They didn't look competitive in either of those games. A bye week where your number 2 overall pick that you traded a ton for gets injured, and then you got swirling questions about, oh, did the Jags make a mistake? Or, was that too much to give up for Travis Hunter? Blah, blah, blah. And then a nail-biter overtime win against the Raiders, where you were 1 play away from losing that game to one of the worst teams in the NFL. And then going into last week, blowing a 19-point lead in the 4th quarter to a 3-5 team with a backup quarterback. Yeah, that's not a good NFL team if I've ever heard of one. If you could take the logo away, take the Jaguars away, you give anyone that stretch of games, the Kansas City Chiefs, Green Bay Packers, the Eagles, you'd be like, yeah, no, that's not a good NFL team. So that's just who the Jaguars are right now. They're not a good NFL team. And it's just like, I could go on and on about this team. Feels like I have so much to say this season. It's crazy. It's crazy that I can just go on here and just rant about the Jaguars every week for like an hour almost, because there's so many problems, and there's so many stems that it could be coming from. There's so many ways we could look at it. How does it need to be fixed? When does it need to be fixed? But the Jags are where they are right now. And even with all of the problems and all the negativity, yesterday, or Monday at least, was a horrible day in Jacksonville. Everyone felt that hangover after that loss. It was crazy. Oof, yeah, there's some mad people. I mean, I'm mad too, obviously. And that's why I get up here and start ranting. But crazy, so much negativity, and they're still somehow the 7th seed in the playoffs right now, and they still have a schedule that's easy enough to possibly get 4 or 5 wins down the stretch, and somehow still possibly get in. So, are the Jaguars a playoff team right now? Technically, yes. They could very well get in the playoffs still this season, even with how bad they are right now. But are they anywhere near to a playoff caliber team? Hell no. To me, they're like a team like the Pittsburgh Steelers that we've seen in the last few years. Every time you see like highlights of the Pittsburgh Steelers or whatever, like the past few years, like they're just getting trampled on. They look like the most average team, and sometimes really bad. But you look up at the end of the season, and they're somehow 9-8, snug in the 7th seed of the wild card. And then in the first round, they get bounced out embarrassingly by the Bills or the Chiefs, every single year. And so for the Jacksonville Jaguars, that have only had 3 winning seasons in the last 20 years, that's a great starting point for the Liam Cohen era in Jacksonville, after going 4-13 last year. But from where we thought we were 5 weeks ago, beating the Chiefs in primetime, 4-1, it's a far cry. At this point, I'll be ecstatic if the Jaguars make it to the dance, if they make it to the playoffs. I do think that's something that they can build off of, even with the last, 5 weeks of negativity. If they can somehow just get there, I think that would be something good for this team. But if the Jags, after this game, totally collapse, Doug Peterson style in 2023, lose the next, 6 out of 8 games, I'm going to be really concerned for this franchise going forward. And you're going to have to make some major changes in the offseason, roster-wise, in my opinion. But anyway, it's a long season. Still 8 games to go, guys. 8 games to go. Time to find out who this team really is, and right now it's not looking good. I'll save a little bit more for some rants later on, but let's get into the AFC South. Go through them really quick. Colts pulled off an overtime win in Germany over the Atlanta Falcons. Honestly, bad early on with the Falcons in the lead for most of the game. But we saw what good teams do. Their good players take over and win the game. Jonathan Taylor going absolutely crazy for over 200 yards and however many touchdowns. Tyler Warren looking like prime Travis Kelce, even though he's only a rookie. Jags gonna have to deal with that for the next 10 years. That guy is crazy. Looks good. And then Daniel Jones playing gritty. I know we all have him with the blood in his mouth and stuff like that. He didn't have a really good game, but he willed his team. He helped will his team to a few first downs. But anyways, I said last week, that the Colts creaked the door open, right? Cracked the door open for the Jags to possibly make a run at a division championship. Well, I think they slammed that shut once and for all, possibly. May have locked it because, in my opinion, with how the AFC South is, I think, you only need to get to like 10-7, 11-6 to really win the thing. And I think the Colts are 2 or 3 wins from locking that down. One of the best teams in the league. And though I see definitely a few cracks starting to show for them, I think, gosh, the first like 6-7 weeks of the NFL, they were God's gift to football, like a perfect team, like leading in every stat. Now they're showing a little few cracks. They're not perfect, but they're still a good team and still can overcome a lot. Very well built. Definitely one of the league's elite. The Titans, they were on a bye week, and they still stink. So don't need to get into that. But the Texans, given life, right in the thick of the things. Shame on the Jags for letting that happen. They were dead at 3-5. Jags gave them life. Now they sit at 4-5, and after a season, what could be a season-flipping win for the Texans, almost could harken back to 2022. I think it was when the Jags beat either the Raiders or the Ravens, and I think they were still like 3-7 or something, 3-6, and or 2-6, one of the two, and they beat the Ravens, at home. They came back, huge comeback win, and that started the streak for them to get to 9-8 and make the playoffs. And the Texans, if they can get healthier. Now, their schedule is brutal, but their defense is real. Can honestly probably win games by themselves. So if that offense starts to start clicking, watch out. And then back to the Jags, still second in the division for now. And like I said, clinging on to kind of that 7th seed for dear life. So, look, guys, I think it's going to come down to the end for this wild card. I know the Bills got embarrassed by the Dolphins, but I feel like they're still gonna get in the dance somehow. Even at 6-3, a lot of their flaws are showing, but they got a guy in Josh Allen. He didn't play well at all against the Dolphins, but they got a guy in Josh Allen who will his team to the playoffs. The Chargers are at 7-3. They just got a huge win against the Steelers. If the Jags get handled by them, then there goes a possible head-to-head in the wild card, and there goes any chance of the Jags at least getting anything higher than a 7 seed, if they even make it to the 7 seed. So if the Jags lose this Sunday, it's going to be the rest of the season battling with the Chiefs, the Ravens, the Texans, who else? Maybe even the Bengals if they get Joe Burrow back, who knows? And like I said in my post game, who do you trust more to win games down the stretch of the season and to make the playoffs? The Patrick Mahomes, Kansas City Chiefs, Lamar Jackson and the Ravens, D'Amico Ryans and that Texans defense, or the Jacksonville Jaguars? I know who everyone else has their money on, and it's not going to be the Jags. So, and I know who the national media is going to want in the playoffs, and it's not going to be the Jags. So we'll see about that. Really, the only hope I think the Jags have at making the playoffs, if they can handle their 4 easy games on their schedule, being the Jets, the Titans twice, and the Cardinals on the road. There's no excuse that you don't beat those 4 games. If you lose any of those 4 games, you do not deserve to even be in the mix to be in the playoffs, in my opinion. Now, it's the NFL, and things can still happen. They could lose those games, but I'm just saying, from where they are now, with the bed they kind of made them for themselves, they need to win those 4 games, and they need to win them convincingly. And then they also probably need to steal a game from they got the Colts they got the Colts twice, the Broncos, and the Chargers next week. They're going to have to somehow steal a game, because it's almost at the point where maybe 9-8 is not going to make it to the playoffs. I think you need to get to 10 wins. So, you got 4 easy games, and you need to get to 10, and you're at 5. So you need to steal one of those really difficult games, and you could say that either the Colts at home or the Chargers this week are really your only shot. I don't think there's any way you're beating the Broncos or the Colts away. It's my opinion. But also with how they're playing, they could very easily go 2-6 in the next 8-game stretch and end the season at a very disappointing 7-10, which in my opinion would be catastrophic, a catastrophic way to end the season. But it's how it's looking right now, unfortunately. Obviously it's a week by week league. I'm trying not to be reactionary. I'm doing this on Tuesday. We have the whole 24-hour rule, but the way that loss kind of still sits in my mouth and leaves that kind of bad taste, I can't even imagine what the coaches and the players got to go through. But anyways, considering going 7-10 would still be better than last year being 4-13. But considering you started out 4-1, I think that's unacceptable, and that's going to lead to a lot of questions next season if that happens. And that's really the only thing I wanted this season, was just a few questions answered. Is Liam Cohen the right guy for this team? Is Trevor the bona fide franchise quarterback that we need him to be? Can Travis Hunter be a star in this league, maybe at both sides of the ball? Can Brian Thomas Jr. build on his amazing rookie season, and can the offense explode? And can the defense just be average? All of these questions I was hoping to be answered by the end of the season, and hopefully be answered with a resounding yes, so that we can have something to build off for the future. But it's looking like all those questions won't be really answered, or there will just be caveats, and you won't have a clear answer, in my opinion. But you could argue some of them are hell no, and some of the stats could back that up as well. But anyways, before we get into this Chargers game, I gotta have my Trevor Lawrence rant of the week, an ongoing segment on this channel that will never die, I feel like, as long as Trevor Lawrence is the quarterback and still playing in his inconsistent ways. And look, I root for Trevor. I really am. I'm by no means a Trevor hater. And you can call me like a Trevor defender or whatever. I root for him because of what the Jaguars had to do to get him, the awful miserable seasons that we had to go through to finally draft a quarterback we think could be the next, whatever, Peyton Manning, whatever, all that. He's not that, but at least just be a franchise quarterback. We've been so starved for good quarterback play here in Jacksonville that even if Trevor Lawrence could be a top 15 quarterback, just like maybe average, just on the brink of a top 10 or elite quarterback, we'd be happy. And I think at a lot of times in Trevor Lawrence's career, he has been that, just above average, at sometimes elite, sometimes bad, but it's just the inconsistencies that's killing us. And I think part of my defending could be emotional for me, is like, I just want him to be good because we invested so damn much into him, and I just want him to be good. I root for him because if Trevor sucks, the Jags suck, and everyone loses. So it's different with Blake Bortles, that we just kind of saw early on, 3 or 4 years in, that he was still terrible. Now, I love Blake. I have some awesome moments cheering for the Jags. The 2017 will always live in my heart as, a special season for me. I remember, I can remember where I was. I can remember everything about that 2017 season. I look back on it with good memories. I know Miles Jack wasn't down, but I look back on that time fondly. And I look back at 2022 extremely fondly as well. So with Blake, I can admire what he did and root for him, and he'll always be one of my favorite Jags players. But I can also admit that he was not, the best quarterback, and that at some point the Jaguars made a mistake by paying him the money that they did and keeping him on the roster, in that time, and it showed, the cracks showed for him. But with Trevor, it feels so weird because if you see how much talent he has, and you see like the flashes, and you can look at some of the points, the stretches of his career where he's playing like a top 10 quarterback, and you're like, we got our guy. And then, but then it's just the inconsistencies that just aren't there for him. And so it's at the point where, like I said, like the whole generational tag, he has to be elite. We paid him this money. Number 1 pick in the draft. He has to be this, or he sucks. No, I'm not there anymore. Like, he's not elite. He's not worth the money. He's not generational. He's right now just an average guy, inconsistent, can make all the throws, has all the talent in the world, but just something's not clicking right now with him. I just say all that because there's just so much discourse around Trevor, and it's like, and this is what happens when you get paid. When you get paid a lot of money, this is what you sign up for. You're going to get lambasted whenever the team loses, even if it's not necessarily all your fault. And when I think about this game, my mind does not go to the quarterback when I think about why they lost the game. But in no ways do I think Trevor Lawrence played good quarterback on Sunday. And we've had way too many games like this year. He's not the sole issue on the team by far, but he just isn't playing what we need him to be, and he's not elevating the team around him most of the time. Are the Jags going to get rid of him and start Nick Mullins? No. I don't think so, nor do I think they can do that. There's not a plan B. We're stuck with him, whether you like it or not. And the last thing I want to do is make more excuses for Trevor, but It's not like he's got really anything going that good around him most of the time, unfortunately. The O-line's been playing really bad lately. Our top wide receiver is a guy that we just got on Tuesday, Jakobi Meyers, who Jakobi Meyers, by the way, had a pretty good day. Caught all his balls, made a few good plays. But either way, we traded for that guy last Tuesday. I have big expectations for him maybe towards the end of the season, or maybe if we keep him for next year. But it's crazy that he was a top wide receiver from that day. Trevor was playing a truly dominant defense, and I wasn't even expecting that much from him. I thought going in, this is going to be a game where Trevor's going to have like 180 yards passing, hopefully no turnovers, maybe a touchdown, maybe one with his legs. So I wasn't expecting much, but unfortunately he delivered on that one at least. But I've just kind of been accepting this is who Trevor is for this season. He'll, at the end of the season, probably be dead last in completion percentage and touchdown passes and rating and every stat like that. People are going to look at the stats, look at the box score, say he's hot garbage. Is Trevor Lawrence hot garbage? No, he's not. At least I don't think so. But it just gets harder and harder to kind of defend him when every metric and stat in the world kind of points to him being a bad quarterback right now. It's just kind of crazy. I did see him make some really good throws in that game, as he always does. He always ends a game. He always makes some really good throws, but then he always has those 2 or 3 really bad Trevor Lawrence dumb moments too, that kind of cost us. But then when he does make a highlight play or possibly game-winning play like he did on Sunday, that last drive going in, we just needed a field goal to win. Trevor got it. I believe it was Parker Washington down the sideline. Was going to set up, I know, a long field goal, 61. But we've seen Cam Little. He looks like he's got his confidence back. I'd say there's a 50-60% chance that he gets it in there and the Jags win that game, but gets called back for a penalty. So it's really nothing good to really look to. The Jags stink right now. Trevor's not helping himself, nor is he elevating this team. And that's an issue. So, yes, he needs to play better. All right, finally. Rant's over. Let's get into this game against the Chargers. And I don't know if there's a worse team to play right now at home than the 7-3 Chargers with our season on the line and in shambles. Yeah, so let's break it down. Let's see how bad the Jaguars are going to get embarrassed on Sunday. And this one, to me, has all the makings of a classic Chargers, Phillip Rivers, and Antonio Gates, 300-yard passing, 4 touchdowns, and blowing us out by 30. That's what this game looks like right now. But first, let's get to the injuries for both sides. Jaguars are still pretty beat up on both sides. No report yet as of Tuesday morning on BTJ. He's still questionable. Like to get him back for this huge game. Brenton Strange is eligible to come back this week. Jags have really missed him too. Hopefully he can make an impact if he does come out on both sides, blocking and in the passing game. I think we really saw how bad we missed Brenton Strange when he went out. Also, Ezra Cleveland questionable and Hunter Long questionable as well. Nice to get Cleveland back, at least get the fully healthy O-line, but we'll see if they can actually play well. And then on defense, it would be nice to get Jordan Lewis back. He's questionable as well. We'll have to see what happens later this week. Jags really need all the help they can get on defense, especially. But then on the Chargers side, obviously the big thing all year for them has been their offensive line, their tackles. There are 2, all-pro, Pro Bowl caliber tackles have been out, but credit to them. They showed against the Chargers, or against the Steelers that, they're still a good team. It's still good offense with 2 backup tackles. We'll see about their tight end. Gatson, I believe. Is that his name? Gatson. He looks good. He looks like a stud. He's questionable, but if he does play, maybe he's a little bit limited. That would really help. But anyways, let's break down, let's go first the Jags offense versus the Chargers defense. Looking at the Chargers defense, they don't have a ton of world beaters on their team, but they do have some good players and they play extremely well as a unit. They are ranked as a top 10 total defense in the NFL this year, very well against the pass, but not so well against the run. They're a little shaky. Up front, nothing too special, but not a ton of talent there. So they don't rush the passer a ton, not too well. So that matches up better for the Jags as far as their offensive line. But they still have a few game wreckers in their linebackers. Obviously, Khalil Mack off the edge and Denzel Perryman in the middle as a linebacker. Both very good veteran players that kind of just know how to play the game, know how to cause chaos, know how to just play the game the right way. And then in the back end, it's kind of the same. Not any names that really stick out to you, but Derwin James, I think, is a game wrecker. Plays extremely sound, good defensive football. And then their defensive coordinator, Jesse Minter, is a quiet, up-and-coming defensive star head coach in the league, and does some really cool stuff with the defense, disguising coverages, disguising blitzes. So for the key for the Jags in this game is simple. I think it'll probably be the key for the offense going forward for the rest of the year. Run the ball. Keep feeding Etienne and Tootin. I said it last week. We didn't get to it, but I want 30 carries from both of them together at least. I'd like to see 20, 25 for Etienne and 5 to 10 for Tootin. It's sad to say that we need to keep the ball out of Trevor Lawrence's hands. And as much as I'd like to say no, just let him fling it. We need to know, is Trevor the guy? I'd like to say that, but I don't feel confident in that. I don't feel confident that we're going to win if we just put the ball in Trevor's hands with at least the weapons that we have right now and say, go win it. I think we need to stick to running the ball. That's the best thing that the offense has been doing all year. Run the ball, and we need to win this game. And a big reason I wouldn't put the ball in Trevor's hands this game is I think the Chargers do a great job of disguising those coverages. And the Jags passing game it's sucked, honestly, this year. None of their wide receivers can really step up to make a play, and Trevor's just not having that great of a year. I wonder about his confidence in this system. I think he's got the system down, but it's just like, does he trust who he's throwing to? Does he trust the O-line blocking him? And I think it would serve the Jaguars right to just kind of play conservative, run the ball, and just hope your defense doesn't get absolutely shredded, which, flipping it over to the defense against the Chargers offense, not going to lie, I think this is going to be bad. Watching that game on Sunday night versus the Steelers, it just felt like, the offense didn't play like incredible for the Steelers, but they still can just kind of do whatever they want. They have a good ground game, and they have good passing attack. Herbert's slinging it. They're really deep at the receiver. McConkey, Johnston, Keenan Allen, all playing really good and efficient football. Their tight end Gatson, if he plays, expect an Antonio Gates impersonation against the Jags on Sunday, because that dude looks like a baller. And really, I think the only chance in hell this defense has of holding this team is for Jordan Lewis to get back, and for their secondary to possibly have the best game of the season, and for Josh and Trayvon to finally show up as a duo, have one of those career games. I know I just got done, ragging on them and ranting about them, but obviously I still root for them. I want them to be good. We're paying them so much money, invested so much capital. They're supposed to be our blue chip game-wrecking players. They gotta perform. And usually in a game where I feel like the Jags don't have a shot at winning, I would say something like, the key to the game is to stop the run and make them one-dimensional. But it's been abundantly clear in the team's game plans against the Jaguars that teams don't even care about running the ball at this point. Look at the past 4 games. Look at the past 4 or 5 games the Jaguars have had, and each of the team's offense just came out slinging it. They were just like, forget running the ball. We can just tear apart the secondary. So the Chargers are probably looking at the film and saying what every other team is saying. Screw running the ball. We're going to drop back 40 times and tear this team apart, especially with a guy like Herbert. So this is a game I think the pass defense has to step up. If not, I think they're screwed. And, I don't expect this offense to all of a sudden score 35 a game. Now, if it does, if the Jags do get down early and it's, 21-6 or something by halftime, then, we put the ball in Trevor's hand. It's the only hope we got, unfortunately, but we'll see. X Factors. X Factors, I think you probably know where this is going after what I've ranted about for the past however many minutes. My X Factor on offense is Trevor Lawrence, and I usually really don't put him as an X Factor because he's the quarterback. Yes, your quarterback needs to play well for you to win games usually, but honestly, if they can't run the ball, or if this game turns into a shootout, it's on him. I think the Jaguars can run the ball on the Chargers defense. They don't do great at stopping the run, but if the Chargers do sell out to stop the run, because that's the only really thing the Jags offense can do right now, then Trevor, better step up, lead this team, because there are some serious questions about him, and even the biggest Trevor defenders are having real concerns, and that's not where you want to be. Flipping it over on defense, X factor is Josh Hines-Allen. He better be hearing the noise this week. This is a game to finally hear your name called over the loudspeakers multiple times this game. If you can't get up for this game against, backup tackles again, with a lot of people questioning your salary, your talent, your role on this team and in the league, that should get him up for this game. And honestly, if the Jags want any hope of winning this game, I think he has to step up and, like I said, have a career game. And yeah, if you notice, I picked the Jaguars' top 2 highest paid players. The season's falling apart. The leaders of this team, or what we think the leaders of this team are, they got to step up if they want to win games. And this is a big one. So time for the score prediction here. In my opinion, this is just a bad matchup for the Jags. And to put it bluntly, I think the Chargers are a good NFL team, balanced offensively and defensively, well coached, and have a lot of good players and a good quarterback who is playing at the level that he's getting paid right now. And the Jaguars aren't anything close to that right now against the Chargers. My prediction is that the Jaguars lose, Chargers win 38-20. And yeah, that sounds like a blowout. And from what I've seen for the Jaguars, I'm expecting a blowout going into this game. And at that point, if that happens, the wheels are coming off the season. Jags are officially on the outside looking in the wild card race. And it's a shame because I'd really love to come on here and be positive. I feel like I see myself as a positive guy in a lot of ways. And with the Jags, it's hard to be sometimes. And I'd love to say that they can win this game. And of course they can win this game. It's the NFL, it's every given Sunday. The Jaguars can win this game. Of course they can. But it's just on paper, it just doesn't look good for the Jags. And if they were to somehow pull this off, I think it will have to be the leaders of this team stepping up, Trevor Lawrence having a career game, Josh Hines-Allen reminding everyone why we're paying him so much money, and for them to show out and finally have one of their best games this year. But it's going to be a big test. If they come out and they play competitive and still lose a close game or something, maybe I'll have some hope that they can, maybe turn it around in the final 7 games coming up. But I just don't know how you can look at anything about this team and just the vibe right now after what happened on Sunday and see any kind of positivity. That's how bad that game on Sunday was. I mean, there's talk that it's the worst loss in franchise history, and there's been some bad losses in the Jaguars' history, and to come off that, tough. Like I said, it's Tuesday, and I'm still feeling terrible about that game. Hopefully I'm wrong. Hopefully they give a good effort, and please, Jags, just come through. Give us some hope, Jags, please. But anyways, that's my score prediction. That's my preview for this Jags-Chargers game. Thanks for listening to me rant. Thanks for sticking with me through this. Let me know what you think's going to happen. Drop all your rants. Drop all of your comments about the team or about this game on Sunday in the comments below. Let me know what you think's going to happen. Yeah, things aren't looking good, but still a long way to go. But yeah, stay tuned for more Jags Japan content. Thanks for watching as always. Stay tuned for the post-game show I'm going to have right after the game on Sunday. And go Jags, and I'll see you later.